Lee Runyon has been an educator in Charleston County and Quintin County for over 20 years. Now he wants to become the next Charleston County School Board member to represent District 6, parts of West Ashley and North Charleston. I speak exclusively with him for this edition of Quintin's Close-Ups. And if you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel and like Quintin's Close-Ups on Facebook. Lee Runyon, welcome to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Thank you, Quintin, and I'm glad to be here today.
I appreciate it greatly. As many people know, you are a low country native. You know, you graduated from the College of Charleston. You've obviously been principal teacher in Charleston and Quintin counties. Now I understand that you want to become the next Charleston County School Board member for District 6. Tell me, what got you from being in the classroom to now saying, hey, I want to be in the boardroom as a board member?
That's a great question, Quintin. I spent nearly 12 years in the classroom teaching at Stall High School, Garrett Academy, also over at Wando, doing my mentorship and internship with Lucy Beckham.
Sure.
And honestly, the sidelines and coaching in the classroom was my first love. And the reality is that the day that I made the decision to make a jump to administration was the same day that my mentor, John Kress, made the decision, unbeknownst to many, to retire, which was a huge shock to me. And his leadership, by example, gave me the inspiration to move into administration and to take that leap of faith. And I moved into administration and was very effective for a number of years in Quintin County, as well as in Charleston County. And after 28 years of service in 2020, I retired because my family needed me to be more available. And at that point in time, I felt like that the opportunity to serve the Charleston community as an educator best was going to be on the board. So honestly, I made that decision internally for myself back in about 2019, 2020, and was very appreciative of the opportunity that the legislative delegation gave us with the single member districts to be in a position now in 2022 to run for the board and to hopefully make a profound difference in the boardroom as a member of the Charleston County School Board.
Speaking of the school board, what does that current representation look like in your mind from the outside?
The representation currently is a combination of long-serving members who have had a proven track record of resource support and service for the public and for the schools, combined with a number of members who have been elected in the last 2 to 4 years, primarily supported by Coalition for Kids, which is a well-meaning group of low country folks who have supported some of these candidates' election. So at this point, we really have a board that is somewhat a mix of veterans and rookies. And my best interpretation of it has come in recent engagement with them during these public engagement processes as late as last month, right, to find that we really, in our newer board members, do not reflect a great deal of experience nor understanding of public education, of the existence of accreditation, the existence of strategic planning, and they seem to often become tangentially distracted by opportunities to go down roads and create paths of success for the school district that truly don't need to be as uniquely created as one would think. The state has done a good job of providing strategic planning requirements, providing accreditation standards through advanced ed, and most of the newer board members don't even know that these things exist.
I want to get back to that in just a second, but you mentioned that the Coalition for Kids is a well-meaning group. Is that particular group a problem for the Charleston County School District?
I believe that group collectively has become a problem in that they would like to directly influence policy. They would like to directly influence hiring, visionary leadership, and oftentimes here of late, I hear from the comments of their current director, Dustin Daniels, who, by the way, Quintin, has been in Charleston for just about a year, came from Florida.
Right.
Probably a well-meaning young man, but on the taxpayer's dime, he was consultatively hired here in Charleston by Charleston County School District as a consultant. Spent a year, I guess, kind of learning Charleston's education system, and now seems to have all the answers for us. So collectively, yes, that group of folks, I think, has some contributors to it that have the financial means to, in the hearts of service, to do good work in Charleston, but seem to be very disengaged with the community as a whole, with the real boots on the ground initiatives of the daily work of public education, and almost present a bureaucratic focus of, we're from the government, we're here to help, and we know better than educational experts and parents, so just take our advice to heart, execute it, and move out of the way. And I really think that speaks to their wanting to say they want to engage for excellence, but at the same time, really by leading by example, disengaging the community and parents especially, as well as educators in the process. And so I think that brings to the table in closure a whole lot of gridlock, which kids don't benefit from.
And I know that you're not on the Charleston County School Board presently, but if you were on the school board today, and I know that you're an outsider and you're a former teacher, well, why do you think the school board didn't disclose this information about Dustin Daniels allegedly being a consultant for them before he was actually hired by the Coalition for Kids to be their new director?
I really can't speak to that, of course, as to why they wouldn't, but the board has culturally had a habit of operating in executive session for long periods of time at multiple board meetings in the past few years. And, to Mr. Daniels specifically, I can't really speak to why they didn't disclose it, but I can tell you that the Charleston County School District operates with great transparency on their finances. So on their website, they publish monthly for the community the consultative fees paid, the external fees paid to various entities, organizations, consultants, and so forth, and leave it up to us, the public, to discern what that information is. But to speak to it, to that pinpoint statement of consultative hire, I really think that's something that Courtney Waters, Lauren Hetrick, Reverend Mack, other members of the board who were supported by Coalition for Kids in their election bid in 2020 would have to speak to directly.
And I will speak with those particular people, two of them coming up soon for Quintin's close-ups later this month. But let me ask you this. Going back to 2015, was the Charleston County School Board, and the school district that is, transparent when it came to this $18 million budget shortfall?
I don't think they were entirely transparent then either. We did have a budgetary shortfall in 2015, as you know and you've attested to. And as I know as well, I was a principal at the time. Right. And we spent some time working with the district as school level leaders to cut budgets, tighten our belts. Yes. And immediately, within a matter of a year or two, Dr. Postwaite reported, as you well know, that the fund balance was restored through very tough decisions budgetarily by great leaders like Glenn Steigman, who at that time was the CFO. We were able to get the budget fund balance fixed. But at the same time, we became mired in bureaucracy, and all of a sudden we went from a deficit, Quintin, or express deficit, to a fund balance, to being almost flush with cash at district level, but resource challenged at school level. And I saw that firsthand as a principal, as we worked budgetarily to reduce class sizes every year, right, to benefit children, while at the same time Calhoun Street every month seemed to have more new people showing up in the Office of Communications and in Human Resources, and all of these folks on special assignment. So it was a real head scratcher back then.
Speaking of which, on a personal note, I wanted to do an interview with Donald Kennedy, the current interim superintendent, but Andy Priority told me something to the effect of no. So we hope to get with Donald Kennedy on Quintin's close-up soon. But let me ask you, what are the resources right now for those schools, and what is that fund balance that you're currently looking at within the Charleston County School District?
So in terms of resources, it's a great opportunity. I think if you look at it surely from a business standpoint, Charleston County School District's annual budget is nearly $1 billion. We have a 50,000 student client base, and we have over 5,000 employees. So the forecast for any organization or any private sector business in that situation would be very pleasing, I think, to most of those MBA holders out there who know the business metrics of operations of businesses. I think the challenges in the district are not the result of a lack of funding. I don't think they're a result necessarily of a lack of teachers. I think there's a cultural challenge coupled with a transition from a educratic culture that was created from 2016 to 2022, actually, that we're trying to come back into the boardroom and come back into the superintendent's office and change that culture and get that funding down to the school level so that we can impact class sizes and reduce those class sizes, and we can improve teacher salary.
So let me ask you, what is the current class size right now within the Charleston County School District?
At the high school level, I can tell you that it on average, we're talking about over 13 high schools. In core academic subjects, it can range from smaller schools where it may be 25, 26, larger schools where it could be around 28 to 29. So at the elementary and middle schools, you're looking at class sizes that are comparable to that. And I know at some of the Title I schools, because Title I monies give you the ability to reduce class size in math and English. Right. Certainly, they're probably themselves to equilibrium.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Zoom actually unmuted you, or whatever it was, the case may be there. But let me move on. Let me ask you, smaller classes would raise the student achievement by what percentage?
According to most research, if you can bring the class sizes down, you can see annual gains of anywhere from 6 to 8% on average in core academic subject areas. Now, you can also do other things to enhance that within that classroom by pushing in other services, for example, co-teaching models, technology infusion, things of that nature. So there's a lot that can be done, but the reality is that when every teacher who is really that educational physician for those children has a smaller load and also can focus their energies, passions, and priorities on teaching and learning with a smaller class size, better outcomes are going to always be the result.
So let me ask you this, Mr. Lee, and I thought about this on my way over here, but how small is too small, and for how long when it comes to class sizes?
My experience is this, Quintin. As a teacher at Stall High School many years ago, I had a class on my schedule that was as small as 8. That was more challenging to teach than another class on my schedule where I had 32. So to give you that specific answer, I think in some way it speaks to the subject area. I'm a certified physical education teacher and a certified math teacher. To teach 40 kids in a PE class is too many, but the state does allow it. To teach 30 kids in a math classroom is too many, but the state does allow it. So typically you want to be in that range of somewhere between 20 and 25 for sweet spot equilibrium for educational effectiveness.
So how much does it actually cost to reduce the class size?
Well, that's a great question. And if the funding were to truly follow the child, so for example, as you know, Title I dollars are earned based on free and reduced lunch status to every district in the state. The cost by reduction is kind of a hard thing to predict just spur of the moment. But I can tell you this, my experience in Charleston County School District many years ago as a administrator was the superintendent came to us as administrators one afternoon and said, I've got a $4 million shortfall. I went into it was in June. I went into the office. I worked actually to about 1 o'clock in the morning on my master schedule, reduced class sizes in the scheduler from 27 kids down to 24 kids. And at 1 o'clock that morning, I called my superintendent and said, I found you $1 million.
Wow.
So all that to say is a moving target, but it's definitely something that is doable as well as a time of fiscal volatility, a time that we could be prioritizing the most for our money without necessarily talking about tax increases.
And Lee, let me ask you this. How many kids, or how many students, I should say right now, are currently getting free or reduced lunch in your district, District 6?
On average, Quintin, it's around 63, 64%. And you can ascertain that number simply by looking at West Ashley High School, because all the schools in West Ashley feed into West Ashley High School. So West Ashley usually hovers around that 63 to 64% mark. Some of the elementary schools may go a little higher, some may go a little lower. But keep in mind that I'm also running in North Charleston to support North Charleston. Part of my district is North Charleston.
Sure.
And that's a totally different scenario there, where just about every school is a Title I school. Every school just about exceeds the 67 to 70% threshold. And at the same time, those schools are afforded a lot of title dollars to reduce class sizes, but we're not necessarily seeing great outcomes in terms of their current data. So part of that's pandemic related, and part of that is maybe systemic.
And what data is systemic right now in your mind?
Well, in terms of systemic, I've reviewed the 2022 SC Ready scores.
Cool.
The report cards are embargoed; they're not out quite yet. But looking at some of the 2021 data, of course, that was pandemic influence. That's kind of a statistical outlier, I should say. But when I'm looking at 2022 data and I'm seeing, in terms of end of course scores, some results hovering around 10 or 11% in the case of one high school that a lot of my constituents go to in the north area. It's very concerning that we do have smaller class sizes in that instance, but we're not seeing that C or higher, for example, on those EOCs in the range we would like. I've seen some bounce back if you look at 2021 data to 2022 data, some improvements in some areas, but by and large, we've got to step up our game in this current school year for more effective and impactful outcomes statistically. Now, I will offer you this, that test scores, high stakes testing does not tell the whole story of student success. Having been a principal, I can tell you that. We took St. John's High School from 2010, one of the lowest performing schools in the state, to 2013-14.
Sure.
Under Dr. McGinley, we took a district with 46 failing schools, and by the time of her unfortunate departure, we were down to 6. So then the state changed the accountability metrics over the past few years from what we were measuring then to what we're measuring now in some instances. But at the end of the day, we can certainly do a whole lot better in the timely fashion of 2022, 2023.
And going back to the North area, Mr. Lee, and you think about those end of the course, results, where do you see the improvements in those North area schools?
I see some improvement in the North area schools in terms of graduation rate. I see some improvement in the North area schools in terms of perhaps their college or career readiness measures. And I do see some improvement in SC Ready when you look from grade level to grade level. The thing about test scores is this: it's a scenario where when those numbers come out, the easy report and the easy story of the day is to say the numerical disadvantage and how much these students have not achieved. We have to change our culture in Charleston while we're working to support and augment the system to improve the performance. We got to improve our culture in Charleston when we come to speaking and reporting on education outcomes to celebrate the victories. Let's celebrate the wins. Because if we spend so much time and energy really pounding on the losses, the defeats, the low numbers, while we're trying to raise those numbers, we're creating a self-fulfilling prophecy year after year. I was a coach for a number of years. I won over 200 basketball games. I coached in a number of different high schools. And I can tell you this, in Coach Kress's office at the College of Charleston, there hung a sign for many years that said a good coach can win with his team. A great coach can win with his team or your team. And the reality is the team of Charleston County School District, the over 3,000 educators, the over 50,000 students and their parents and their households, November the 9th is not going to change drastically or at all as compared to November the 8th, Election Day. 9 faces will change on the board, Quintin, but the reality is that our team of students, our team of parents, our team of educators, for the most part, with a little bit of influx and a little bit of transition, is going to be the exact same team year in and year out. What we have to do is, while we're working to fulfill our mission of educational excellence, we've got to encourage our teachers and support them. We got to encourage our students and support them, that they can have positive academic outcomes. And these numbers are not where we want them to be, but these numbers are not going to be spoken to and about as a self-fulfilling prophecy. We can do better in Charleston in all areas, and I believe in the near future we will do better.
And this might be a left field question here, Mr. Lee, but what educational models do you hope the Charleston County School District will actually use in the future for those underperforming schools in the entire district?
I've seen all kinds of models in my career, Quintin. I've led school improvement grant schools. I've been involved with charter schools. I've been involved with schools within schools models. Okay, mastery learning, I think, is a really successful model that I would suggest to those educators. But at the same time, that mastery learning may be the most effective way to allow kids to accelerate that need to accelerate, and allow kids support who need longer time and support. Okay, that might be the way to go. But at this point in time, as a board member, it's not my job as a board member to directly speak to and lead the academic programs. It's my job to encourage the leadership and support the leadership and resource the leadership of Charleston County School District in any way possible I can as a board member, to work collaboratively with them to affect the outcomes. So if you look at it similar to a professional sports team, almost, our superintendent becomes our head coach. It's not my job as a board member of the quote, Board of Trustees of Charleston County School District to get so far into the weeds with my superintendent that I'm making day-to-day decisions, and that's not my intention.
I want to get to that in just 30 seconds, but let me ask you this. How should the Charleston County School District replicate the results of the Meeting Street schools to fix some of those district issues inside those underperforming schools?
Well, Quintin, I've got to ask you a question in not rebuttal, but in response to that. So I'm looking at the 2022 data.
Yes, sir.
And you were talking about Meeting Street, and I know things ebb and flow, but less than 60% of the Meeting Street elementary school students approached or exceeded expectation on their 2022 results. So every school is working diligently to always improve their results, but I'm not really seeing the statistical data you're speaking to on Meeting Street when it comes to their elementary schools. Now, when we get to their middle school data,
Sure.
Okay, and you look at, say, the end of core scores for Algebra 1, okay, some of the folks in my constituency go to Meeting Street Middle School, some go to Orange Grove Middle School, some go to St. Williams.
Yes.
And when you look at Meeting Street, certainly they put up 94.5% of their kids pass the Algebra 1 with a C or higher in 2022, which is a commendable mark to them. So as they work with kids over time, they seem to do very well. But let me also point this out to you,
Yes,
that
sir.
across the river at C.E. Williams, which is a traditional community school, 97.5% of the kids who attempted the Algebra 1 in 2022 achieved a C or higher. And C. Williams tested nearly twice as many kids as compared to Meeting Street. So I think we've gotten hung up in the weeds, so to speak, of looking at Meeting Street as the model. I think Meeting Street is a fantastic educational opportunity amongst our charter school menu for school choice in Charleston, but I cannot sit here and tell you unequivocally that Meeting Street is the flagship school of Charleston County School District at elementary or middle school currently.
Let me ask you this. What's the reading and math proficiency at Orange Grove Elementary?
In terms of reading and math, Orange Grove had a pretty solid year last year. Over 90% of their students tested at meet or exceeds or approaching meet or exceeds in those areas of the SC Ready test.
And what is the increased percentage of students making at least 1 year's growth on the NWEA MAP reading and math in District 6?
In terms of NWA, I don't have access to that data. But when you look at District 6, and this is another point I'd like to clarify,
Sure.
District 6, as far as a voting area, encompasses North Charleston and West Ashley geographically. It touches two constituent district areas of District 4, North Charleston School District, and West Ashley School District. So when we look at it collectively, we've seen some high performances, Quintin, from some schools like, for example, Ashley River Creative Arts.
Cool.
Okay, we've seen some mixed results from Carolina Voyager, Drayton Hall, St. Andrews Math and Science, and Oakland. Yes. Oakland has done some solid work. They're around 75% success on SC Ready last year overall. But we've got some real work to do at a lot of our elementary schools that are particularly Title I schools, many lying in the North Charleston area, such as Goodwin and Lambs Elementary.
So what is the teacher's experience at Lambs Elementary?
Traditionally, it's a lower number of years of experience than it is, say, at a more traditional school such as, say, an Orange Grove Charter or an Ashley River Creative Arts. The great thing about being a principal at any school is you get the opportunity to recruit, hire, support, and retain quality folks. Lucy Beckham had a standard saying, hire once, hire well. And as you look as a principal at your openings each year, or maybe you earned additional allocations, I always did this in practice. We always tried to bring to the table, to the team, added value of folks in combination of say, rookie first-year teachers as compared to, sprinkling in some seasoned veterans from other schools who are looking to relocate. And oftentimes what you find at your Title I schools is you find a mix of typically younger teachers, and then they come in, they stay, they do great work. The work is hard, it's challenging. Sometimes they get an opportunity in a more stable, non-Title I environment. They move on, and then we cycle right back to that energetic rookie. And so as leaders, we have to learn as principals to balance that hiring process out and really uniquely recruit a little bit more experience at some of our Title I schools to kind of augment onto that rookie energy and that youthful enthusiasm that can get those kids where we need to be.
And quickly, because I have Zoom is only giving me 8 minutes left, but what is the current teacher retention rate in Charleston County schools?
It's a little under 90%. Typically, the district, Quintin, shows anywhere from an attrition rate of around 400 positions a year. So, I know that we have a very hard-working human resource department. We got a lot of recruiters. We recruit globally. We recruit locally. We recruit in-state. And at the same time, sometimes because of salary, we attract some candidates to Charleston who can be afforded a higher salary compared to where they're at. But I don't know that just simply raising the salary scale is going to move the needle on retention rate to a lower number, because you have folks who retire out of the system every year. You have people that move every year. There's transients. I think what you have to understand is you got to have great recruiters, and you got to remember what Lucy Beckham taught us: hire once, hire well. and support those great teachers as you bring them on board, and do everything that you can to assist them in doing the great work that they're trained to do.
Yeah, matter of fact, I always walk by Lucy Beckham on my way over to Long Point Road for work. But let me ask you, how many teachers have the Charleston County School District actually lost in the past 2 years?
Hundreds, several hundred have left. You know, it's interesting. I overheard some conversations just this morning with some teachers talking about, and they worked at Title I schools, and one of them had made the move from a high school, middle school setting down to an elementary in that same geographic area. The other was talking about, this is my last year and I'm moving because, me and my fiance are getting married and we're moving out of state. There's some who have lost due to burnout. There's a candidate running in District 7 who, after 12 years, left the classroom because even though she was effective, highly effective, the salary just priced her out of being able to afford to live in Charleston. So with hundreds of teachers being lost every year, we as a community have to work with our legislative delegation. We got to work with our municipalities to bring affordable housing to the table as a community for our first responders as well as our educators, so we can improve our retention rate.
This might be a weird question too, Mr. Lee, but how has administrative costs effectively killed teachers' pay in Charleston County?
Administrative costs?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I guess you're speaking to the administrative salaries and the number of administrative stuff. We've become very top heavy at Calhoun Street in non-academic areas, position wise. For example, we have six-figure salary positions in the Office of Communications, perhaps at the top levels, as you've seen in reported news. We're now eclipsing $200,000 salaries at the highest levels of leadership in Charleston County School District. And at the same time, our teachers, some of them are working 2 and 3 jobs to simply afford to make $60,000 to $65,000 and be able to afford rent in Charleston. So I think what happens there is because of transparency, we see those numbers. There's a lot of morale challenges to that. When that check comes in, those teachers are writing out their bills, they're paying their bills, they're trying to afford a life balance, and they're seeing leadership making hundreds of thousands of dollars, and they're making what they're making. And at the same time, the victory's in the classroom. That's where the work gets done. As I alluded to earlier, the superintendent might be our head coach, but it doesn't matter what he draws up on his academic leadership board for Charleston County to execute, because the execution is going to be done by the players in the classroom, right? Okay, so let me ask you this. How often in other industries, such as, say, the NBA or the NFL, do we see coaches making more than players? Not usually, right, Quintin? So with that being said, we've got to flip the script. We've got to get our teacher salaries up in the range of that $60,000 to $80,000 range, and we've got to reduce the spending at Calhoun Street and in leadership, because at the end of the day, we could hire great superintendents, we can hire very highly effective principals, but if we don't hire the best, brightest folks and retain them in the classrooms, these numbers that you're referencing, we're not going to make a whole lot of headway on that.
Quickly, and I have 3 minutes, unfortunately, but let me go to right to that, as you know, because I know that the board is proposing to basically delegate the majority of its policies and decisions to the superintendent. What best practices can actually come out of all of this, Mr. Lee?
What can come out of it is exactly what we've experienced the last 7 years under Dr. Postaway. Right. You can have a superintendent that can give reports that things are going swimmingly well, all is well, and you can see bureaucratic and educratic fat growing monthly on the district. I don't support this current initiative, and quite honestly, I think that the superintendent and the board have to have a very collaborative working relationship, but I firmly know that we should not be abdicating our elected responsibilities to a non-elected office or position, and that's something that I really think that this board is off on a tangent that really we should have gone down that road.
And yes or no, quickly, would you, if elected to the board, obviously, would you support keeping Donald Kennedy as a permanent superintendent?
I know that Donald Kennedy well personally. I have worked with him professionally. I think he's doing a good job of trying to right the ship and lead it. I think he needs to have every opportunity, as every other applicant, would have for that position. But I also think that we should have a national search. We should look at all applicants, and we should really, consider that at the end of the day, the end of the search process, we've come out on the other end with the very best leader for Charleston County School District. And Don Kennedy has proven his allegiance. So I think that definitely gives him a check mark in his box. But I would say, not speaking for him as a professional personally, but if it were me, I would want to be vetted against the very best. And when the job was assigned, know that I was both the right fit and the most effective person is chosen by a very transparent and authentic search process.
And as you know, the Charleston County School Board is supposed to be nonpartisan. But let me ask you this, Mr. Lee. Why did you accept the endorsement of Moms for Liberty?
It's one of the most active parent groups in this country right now, Quintin. Parent voice is extremely important. And as the parent voice of Moms for Liberty folks reached out and spoke to me, I realized that not every group and maybe not every party affiliation may resonate platform-wise entirely with folks, but parents are the folks, regardless of zip code, who need to have the first voice and choice of education.
And unfortunately, I'm running out of time, but I hope to get you back on to talk more about this. Lee Runyon, thank you for your time. And again, welcome to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Thank you, Quintin, and thank you for having me, and thanks for all you do to help inform our community.
Well, you're welcome anytime.